Hello everyone. Today we continue to follow the challenging yet deeply moving journey of the single mother, Dieuhan. After hearing Mr. Shin's story, a new spark of hope lit up in Han's heart. She began to believe that somewhere out there, her parents might still be alive. Perhaps they were waiting for her, or maybe they had long forgotten the existence of a little girl lost so many years ago. With a determined spirit and a heart full of hope, Han set off on her journey. She brought along little Tom, her young son, the greatest source of strength in her life, and headed into the unknown, not knowing where the road might lead. From one village to another, through narrow alleyway markets, to remote countryside towns she had never seen before, Han and Tom made their way through unfamiliar crowds. She asked questions, searched for tiny clues, recalled fragments of old memories. But the farther she went, the more that hope began to fade. All she received in return were hesitant shakes of the head and sympathetic, distant glances. Fatigue and confusion slowly weighed her down. Tom too grew restless and cried more often, overwhelmed by unfamiliar faces and places. And Han, exhausted, worn, realized it might be time to stop. This part of the journey, perhaps, needed to end here, at least for now. Han decided to return home, but before leaving, she wanted to meet Mr. Shin one more time, and she wanted Dieuhan to come with her. She hoped to ask for the address of her parents, who were supposedly in the south. She wasn't sure if it was true, but even the smallest lead was something she had to hold on to. If the chance came, she would go to the south. She would follow that trail to face the past and to finally discover who she truly was. After getting everything ready, the three of them quietly made their way down the narrow dirt path. But just as they reached Mr. Chin's gate, Dieuhan suddenly stopped in her tracks. Her face visibly paled, and she quickly lied to Han, claiming she had a stomachache. What she truly felt was fear, the kind that paralyzed her. She couldn't believe that the friend she trusted most might be colluding with her stepfather to harm her. Dieuhan watched Han's silhouette disappear behind the rusted iron gate, her heart heavy with confusion and dread. Her thoughts swirled in chaos. She couldn't walk away, so she made a choice to sneak back and find out the truth. Creeping around to the back of the house, Dieuhan pressed herself against the wall, straining to catch every word drifting from inside. The conversation between Han and Mr. Shin was short, mostly Han asking for more information about her parents. Mr. Shin sounded cheerful, enthusiastic even, promising to help Han if she could provide a more specific address. Dieuhan froze. Han had no idea who Mr. Shin really was. She wasn't plotting anything. She wasn't part of any scheme. It was all a misunderstanding, and Dieuhan had been wrong to doubt a friend like Han. But just as Han left the house, a sudden argument erupted inside. Dieuhan's heart pounded in her chest. She heard every word clearly now. The truth was undeniable. Mr. Shin planned to keep Han there to extort money from her biological father. To him, Han was just a pawn, a tool in a cruel plan. And Han, innocent and hopeful, had no idea she was in danger. But what could Dieuhan do? She had no proof. She couldn't just blurt it all out to Han without sounding irrational. Everything was tangled, messy, and dangerous. Later, when Han came looking for her, they met at the fork in the road. On the way home, Dieuhan walked slower than usual. Sensing something was off, Han asked gently, "Are you okay? Is something wrong?" Dieuhan shook her head, eyes fixed on the distance. She couldn't tell the truth, not yet, but she would. Somehow she would find a way. Because she couldn't let Han walk into a trap. She couldn't let the cruelty of the past repeat itself, not again. The next morning, Mr. Qin unexpectedly showed up at Uyen's house, looking to stir up trouble. He wandered through small neighborhoods, questioning the locals one by one. After hours of wandering, he finally stood in front of the small house, hidden behind a wall of climbing vines, the place where Dieuhan and Uyen were staying. He didn't rush in. Instead, he stood silently at the gate for a long time, his eyes scanning the area. No movement, no voices. It seemed the house was empty. Luckily, Han and Uyen had gone out early that morning. If they had been home, things might have turned out very differently. Mr. Qin didn't wait any longer. He slipped through the slightly ajar gate and walked straight into the yard as if he owned the place. He tore the place apart, opened closets, flipped mattresses, rummaged through drawers hoping to find cash, valuables, documents, anything he could pawn or use. But there was nothing. Frustrated, he collapsed under a tree in front of the house. Still determined, he decided to stay unaware that Han and Uyen were on their way back and that he, the devil himself, was now sitting inside their home. More than an hour passed, still no sign of the girls. And then a sound, the distant hum of a motorbike engine slowly growing louder. Mr. Qin jumped up, heart racing. He ran to the door and peeked through a small crack. A familiar figure was approaching the gate. It was the An, the owner of the garden where Uyen had been staying. At that moment, Mr. Qin's heart pounded in panic. He hadn't expected him to be the first one back. He'd been hoping for Uyen. Without another thought, he turned and quickly fled, moving like a thief in the night. He crept along the side of the house, slipped behind the kitchen, and crouched in the thick hibiscus bushes near the fence. Holding his breath, Mr. Qin watched through the leaves. The An turned off the engine, set the kickstand, and walked up to the door. He called out loudly, "Uyen? Dieuhan? Anyone home?" No answer. He peered inside, then looked around again. Seeing nothing unusual and hearing no suspicious sounds, he eventually turned and left. For now, the danger had passed. No one knew that just minutes earlier, this place had almost become the stage for a dark and sinister act. But fate, it seemed, had granted Uyen and Han one more chance. On the narrow dirt path leading home, a thin woman with messy hair tousled by wind and dust was slowly making her way forward, holding a small child's hand. It was Dieuhan. She walked with her young son step by step. As she reached the weathered wooden gate, Han paused for a moment. For some reason, something felt off. She gently pushed the gate open and stepped inside. She looked around the yard. No sign of Uyen. The house door was slightly ajar. A faint unease began to stir in Han's chest as she called out loudly, "Uyen, Uyen." No answer. Frowning, Han stepped into the house. She had no idea that danger was still lurking somewhere, perhaps behind the trees, at the edge of the garden, or even hidden within the heart of someone willing to sell everything for a blood-deep debt. Will Mr. Qin stop here, or is this just the beginning of a more dangerous plan? In such a perilous moment, one can't help but wonder, where was Han, the man who had always worried for and cared for Han during her illness when she was in danger? Han had gone to the city alone to look for the mother and child. He ran everywhere from one alley to the next, visiting every shabby rental, every tiny street-side shop. Wherever someone pointed, he went. Some vaguely remembered. Others said they'd seen a woman and child like that at a riverside market. Tha rushed there, but it all led to nothing. That night, the sky poured rain. Tha returned, his car parked on the roadside since morning. He slumped in the driver's seat, too exhausted to call for help or find shelter. Rain drummed steadily on the roof, its cold seeping deep into his bones. Eventually, he drifted into sleep without realizing. Morning came. Suddenly the phone rang, jolting Than awake. It was Hui, his close boss and friend. "Hello, Hui?" Than murmured, his voice weak and drowsy. On the other end, Hui asked frantically, "Where are you, Than? I've been calling you non-stop." Than mumbled a few words, then hung up and fell back asleep. The next time he woke up, sunlight filled the room, making him squint. As he sat up, the door swung open. Hai stood there, his face full of worry. "You're awake?" "I'm the one who brought you back," Hai said. Than was still trying to make sense of everything. Hai then recounted what happened. He had found Than passed out in the driver's seat, soaked, lips pale, burning with fever. Had he not arrived in time, something terrible might have happened. Hui had brought him home, cleaned him up, brought down his fever, and cared for him all night. Hearing that, Than sat in stunned silence, not because he was touched, but because he still hadn't found Han. "Hui, I have to keep looking. I know Han came to the city. She might be in danger. She has a small child with her." That sentence made Hui freeze. He was quiet for a few seconds, then asked slowly, "Han Dieuhan, are you sure she's here in the city?" Tang nodded, his eyes red from exhaustion, sleeplessness, and unspoken fear. At that moment, something clicked in Hui's mind. He remembered a little boy abandoned near the old bus station, whom Han had once brought to his house. Hui didn't hesitate. He pulled out his phone and dialed Han's number. It rang for a long time, but no one picked up. He tried again. Still no signal. Now, the faces of both men showed just one emotion: extreme worry. Two men, one shared goal: to find Dieuhan and little Tom, no matter what. Will they make it in time? Where are Dieuhan and Tom now? Who are they facing? What danger lies ahead? Stay tuned for the next part to find out if Tanch and Hui can reunite with Dieuhan and her son in time.
Nghe đến đây, Thành bỗng thẫn thờ, không phải vì cảm động, mà vì anh vẫn chưa tìm được Hân. Huy à, tôi phải tiếp tục đi tìm. Tôi biết Hân lên đây rồi, cô ấy có thể gặp nguy hiểm. Cô ấy có con nhỏ. Câu nói khiến Huy sững lại. Anh im lặng vài giây, rồi chậm rãi hỏi: "Diệu Hân ấy hả? Cậu chắc là mẹ con cô ấy đang ở thành phố này sao?" Thành gật đầu, mắt đỏ hoe vì mất ngủ, vì kiệt sức và vì nỗi lo không tên. Lúc đó, Huy bỗng nhớ ra một chuyện. Anh đã nhận nuôi một cậu bé bị bỏ rơi gần bến xe cũ mà Hân đã bế đến tận nhà mình. Huy không chần chừ nữa, anh lập tức rút điện thoại ra, bấm số Hân. Chuông reo rất lâu, nhưng không ai bắt máy. Anh thử gọi thêm lần nữa, vẫn không có tín hiệu. Gương mặt cả hai người đàn ông bây giờ chỉ còn lại một cảm xúc duy nhất: lo lắng cực độ. Hai người đàn ông giờ đây chung một mục tiêu: tìm được Hân và bé Tôm. Liệu họ có đến kịp thời không? Diệu Hân và Tôm lúc này đang ở đâu? Đối mặt với ai? Và nguy hiểm nào đang rình rập? Hãy cùng tôi đón xem phần tiếp theo để biết Thành và Huy có gặp lại hai mẹ con Diệu Hân không nhé.